Hey, Cardinals fans, welcome to another episode of Birds on a Blue Note. Been a couple of weeks, and to say a lot has happened during that time would be a bit of an understatement. This team has gone into what can only really be described as a tailspin downward,
We're in
and
free fall right now. Where's the parachute?
it,
No.
it is it is the wrong time to be trending downward, to say the least, with very little time to right the ship. So. We're going to discuss just a few topics here tonight, and hopefully be back at it sometime next week. Everything, God willing. So, I mean, first up was Walker. I mean, this kid was finally getting everything sorted out in the minors and whatnot. Barrel percentage was there, his OPS was there, batting average was there.
He was slugging. I mean, that's what we sent him down for, right? We wanted the angle, right? The launch angle was the big topic, which kind of fair. He beat the ball into the dirt a lot. And I'm not even saying that the team organizationally sent him down to hit more home runs. Um, they just wanted more line drives, honestly. And that's what was happening. And he's hit a majority of his home runs in AAA in the past 2 weeks. Um, so yeah, I'll let you keep going. It's,
I, I
it's,
mean,
it's one of my biggest pet peeves, I think, in the last 10 years of watching this team play. Like, well, my whole life I watched them play, but like in that time span of like the last 10 years, I think this is one of the worst things that they've done organizationally is what they're doing to this kid right now. Um, but I'll let you get back to what you were saying, and then I'll go on my rant because it might be a minute. It's just me complaining.
I mean, it was very clear from anybody who understands swing mechanics. You could see that when he was sent down, he was consistently getting on top of the ball. It doesn't matter if you are hitting the ball hard at that point. If you're always getting on top of the ball, it's always going to be going down, and that leads to ground outs, double plays, stuff like that. And it was needed, like you said, that he didn't need to be hitting home runs. That's a benefit of his size and power, that it just naturally leaves the park when he gets good
Mhm.
hit. But like they just wanted to see more of those line drives. He needed to be getting under the ball. Any swing instructor will tell you that you need to get under the ball. You don't want to have a huge uppercut like Eddie had back in the day and whatnot, where it was basically an elevator swing going all the way up and whatnot. But I mean, you do need to get under the ball and get lift at this level. And so he was finally doing that and gets called up. And like, okay, I get 2 nights ago, I get sitting him that night. You have a hot pitcher, maybe not the best matchup for him after like a first bad night
He
back,
was
but
four
like,
for seven in his career against him too, though. Like Ollie likes to preach matchups, right? That's the reason Brandon Crawford took a critical at bat last week with the bases loaded because he had success 5 years ago against the pitcher.
yeah.
But when it comes to Walker, who's going to be the future, he's supposed to be the future of your franchise middle order bat. We throw those stats out the window now. I don't. Oh, I just breathe a little bit. And
No,
also, I don't get it. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Like I said, this is one of the things that's like really pissed me off. Like I've been critical of the Cardinals before, fairly, I think, but not angry at them, if that makes sense. Like this, the way they're handling Walker right now makes me angry because, as you said, he was just going through his hottest streak in AAA of his career for the past like month-ish, probably 2 to 3 weeks-ish. But he was slugging, as you said, he was hitting for average, he was hitting for power, he was getting on base, he was building confidence, and then you call him up, and then you platoon him. He sits 2 of 3 games, even though he hits right-handers better. It doesn't make any sense at all. You don't platoon a number one prospect. You give him a chance to play every day and find his groove in the majors, right? Like I don't, especially when like Newt Bars struggled significantly. Tommy Pham, as much as I think we both agree we love Tommy Pham, Tommy Pham was supposed to be the platoon player. You don't love Pham?
I do not love Pham, but
No,
he's
not love
on the
Pham.
team, so I'm rooting for him.
Okay. But still,
Difference. Huge
he he
difference.
he's supposed to be the platoon bat, and he's playing every day. I mean, Goldie still isn't Goldie. Uh, I don't know, man. The way they're handling Walker is malpractice, in my opinion, and I think it's a fireable offense what they're doing to this kid. Because if they ruin him, that's
They're not going to ruin him. He's too young to be ruined. If he can be ruined this easily, which he won't, he's not going to make it as a major leaguer. Just telling you that. Like, you can't be ruined this easily if you're going to have a 10-year career. You're going to go through Matt Carpenter type slumps where shit just does not work out well at all for you. I mean, it happens to even the best of them. Even Judge has had streaks where he like cannot
I
manage to get on
understand that
base. But
concept, but he hasn't had the consistent success or the consistent ability to find success in the
yeah,
majors. So
but he's
sitting there
22.
2 or 3 games.
He's
This
22. He's not going to get ruined. I'm mad as fuck about this. Like it pisses me off because he could have easily just stayed down in the minors. You could have called him up in September when the rosters expand. No problem whatsoever. Like I get the point that you say, like even all these comments today, saying like they wanted to bring him up because every game matters, but then why aren't you playing him in the matchups that it makes sense to? Like you
He's
said,
sending
like
mixed messages
not
though
even
too. Also,
you're telling me there wasn't even like a spot for him to like pinch hit last night or anything, like come on.
he got to pinch hit and one at bat today, I guess. So like, hey man, this is going to be one at bat in 3 days. Good luck, you know. So like, but yeah, Ali's in. Yeah, I watched that interview with John Denton. That platoon against good teams with good lefty relievers, and then they're like, but the numbers say he hits right-handers better. Um, what are we doing? You're the manager of a major league club, right? This isn't fantasy baseball, and like, I don't, man, I don't know. I could probably talk about this for an hour, and I'll just get angrier as time goes. it don't, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. And like, if you want to platoon someone, right? Like, there's other options. Lucan Baker is like leading the AAA right now on home runs, and he mashes righties, and he's a left-handed bat. I don't. Ollie said we needed another outfielder. Why do we need? We
Yeah,
have
I don't
Hurley,
get why we needed
Newbar,
another fielder.
Victor Scott, Tommy Pham out there. Like, why do we need another outfielder? We just need someone to hit.
Especially since the guy he's replacing is an infielder. Like they made the corresponding move for Mark going on the IL retroactively, and you know,
You know who else is hitting righties down the minors right now? Ivan Herrera. Hey, hey,
but no, we got Pajas, and you know what? Again, he is a serviceable backup, but he is a backup, and right now we are playing him like a starter, and
and
I
Gorman is
I
playing
just
like
don't
a
know,
backup.
man.
And yeah, Gorman has struggled, right? Like I get that. And he strikes out too much. We all know that. But he's still like also second in the team in home runs. He's close to leading in RBI. He's another core piece for your future. This is not someone you're supposed to platoon or play every 2 or 3 days, right? Especially when no one else is producing either. At least
Yeah.
you have a thump with left hand like that can hit righties when he's going well. I I, I
Let's
don't
get
get it.
on to something else. What do you want to talk about? What else do you want to talk about?
Oh man. Gosh. So I guess yeah, you can see. Am I turning red? I feel like I'm turning red. Um,
The orange hat keeps it at bay.
yeah, right. It matches, right? I gotta. So I guess this kind of leads into like the next thing I wanted to talk about with Ali Marmal and like, is this guy going to continue to be our manager long term? Is he a scapegoat? Is he actually making the decision to sit Walker 2 or 3 days right after calling him up, or is that like upper management? What is? I guess what's going on there? What do you think is going on there? Let's theorize a little bit. I don't
I
know.
always have to take a step back when I'm doing this because I already didn't like Ollie as the option. Anybody who knows me that Stubby has been my like favorite pick since Matheny got fired, and he just keeps getting passed over, man. The guy took down Pete Alonso, but he
He's
actually
minor
has
league
like a
manager of the year
real
also too. So like
he
he
has
had
a
the
real
yeah
like track record too. But you
of
know,
success. I agree. I was on the Stubby train too. I didn't like I if you go back and I made this comment in a chat on Bleacher Report also. I think people were fine with Schilt. I don't think people loved Schilt. I think at the time he was hired, I think people were fine with Schilt because he replaced Matheny, and Matheny was so bad, right? And then Schilt found some immediate success after being hired. So people were like, okay, this guy's good. Doesn't take away that I think at least us two feel like Stubby should have got that job. But then when shit hit the fan again, or philosophical differences, I don't know. It's strange, right? Like, is this the front office is doing, or is this Ollie? Like, is Schilt made questionable decisions like this also? Um, I don't know.
I think it's the managers. Front office rarely has a hand on like in-game decisions, stuff like that. Normally, if anything, like they'll tell you to play a player, usually if they have a lot of money invested in them or something and they're trying to move them as a trade piece, they might nudge the manager to play somebody a bit more than they want to, but they're not going to have him sit somebody unless the rare case pitchers who have innings limits on the air. You know, if you have a serious innings limit on a youngster pitcher, like you have the front office telling the, you know, management, hey, like make sure you're watching this guy. We don't want to burn his arm out in year one and whatnot, but we don't really have any of that. So it leads me to believe it's the like mentality and style of like the coaches that they're going for. And look, these decisions that he makes win games at lower levels, like single A, where he, has experience coaching before, but like at the major league level, you cause more chaos and confusion amongst your lineup, amongst your players who need that consistency ultimately at this level, you know? It's
Yeah.
one of those things where I feel I don't think Ollie is necessarily well, if they had fired Ollie last year, he would have been the scapegoat. Firing Ollie this year, not the scapegoat. This offense is completely underperforming. They improved this team enough for it to be actually like competing. I know there were a lot of question marks coming into the season, but nobody had Arenado and Goldie having the types of seasons they had. I saw people being like, oh, yeah, they're going to continue to regress, but you can still expect around career average numbers from both of them and everything. This total drop off was unexpected, but I mean, they're not really making any changes. He just kept batting Goldie and Nato there over and over again when there were others that were having success and whatnot, and missed out on so many opportunities. I mean, just a week ago, we were only a couple games back and we were right in the mix of things. Heck, we even had a wild card spot last month, like firmly in hand for a few days and whatnot. So, I mean, it's definitely you can't fire the players. You can trade them and whatnot, but I don't see management doing enough to right the ship, or at least testing enough different changes and whatnot. He's keeping roughly the same lineup. He's pretty much banging his head against the wall and doing the same thing over and over again, hoping that something's gonna change. And that just isn't gonna cut it right now.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, so I do understand what you're saying with Marble and like him ultimately making like lineup decisions and stuff. But at some point, I feel like front office has to take some responsibility with these weird things that are happening also. Because, and I don't want to call myself a Mo defender, but I understand that he works within limits set by ownership also. So he's not always able to do the big splashy things like a lot of fans want to see. But he makes a decision on who he's hired as manager ultimately too, though. So he's hired Matheny, fired Matheny. He's hired Schilt, fired Schilt. and he's handpicked Marmol too, right? So this is his third guy in the last less than 10 years that he might have to fire that he's handpicked. When there has, and it's not like there wasn't other good options. Like when we hired Matheny, Terry Francona was out there, and like I don't know about you, but I wanted Terry Francona. He has had a history of winning the World Series. Beating us with the Red Sox. Um, and yeah, I know Marmol makes these weird, stupid decisions to the lineup, but you would think there'd be some pushback from ownership, right? Like, how excited Cardinals Nation was when we recalled Walker back up just to sit him the first 3 days. Don't you think they would be like, what the heck, man? What are you doing? Play this kid. It doesn't make sense, right? So, uh, I don't know. I mean, I kind of view Marmol as a scapegoat a little bit simply because, I mean, he was chosen by upper management to be the guy, right? Like, and this is the third guy in a row that we're like, is he even quality? Like, should he be managing at the major league level? Like, Schilt has had some success in San Diego so far. I think he's a major league manager. I just think he wasn't the right guy with us. But I don't know. When
Schultz with the
it
team that overspends and has a much different roster
approach,
than the
yeah, different approach, philosophical differences, right? It's
well, yeah, but those philosophical differences led them to having to take out loans from a bank in order to pay their players. I mean, like
yeah, no, I get it. I get it.
that's not good business. They have
They're in a
nothing.
playoff spot right now, though, too, though, right? So
But
wouldn't
they're
you flip
third in their
records?
but they're third in their division. All that money they spend, all that capital that they use every year simply goes to get them into a wild card where they lose in the first round. They are not a team or that we should be trying to model
Well,
ourselves
I
after.
absolutely
Nor
didn't say that at all. I'm just saying that he, like himself as a manager, has found some success there. So it reflects poorly on on us because, as you said, they're not a franchise. They traded away their entire farm from Juan and then traded it back away a year and a half later because they couldn't afford him. It
Schultz is
doesn't.
still making his same type of boneheaded moves that he was making here as he is in San Diego. I'm very close to those games and everything. Like, I mean, he's still doing what he was doing up here. The philosophical differences, like, if people want to assume that it was about wanting the team to spend more, I mean, fine, go work for a major market team. Like, we don't have that ability, and especially with like we knew about the Bally's deal starting to go sour a few years ago. This has been a very long, drawn out process where revenue is questionable. And I mean, as much as I do not like how the DeWitt's ownership has, aged over time, I also understand it is not smart business to keep spending money when you don't know that you're going to have money coming back. And fans in the seats do not produce the same type of revenue as TV and ad deals do nowadays. So it doesn't work like it used to back in the early 2000s where, having 3 million fans was a huge deal. You now have these gigantic advertising and sponsorship deals that are coming through, and even the television deals. What I think the Dodgers is over $1 billion or something like that.
Yeah,
You
I do
know,
want to counter you though, like because what you're saying actually it does make sense and it's true. Like a lot of the revenue does come from like these deals, especially with like TV providers and whatnot. But if you're the DeWitts, right, and you're unsure of that in the future, wouldn't you at least like to be able to count on the fans coming in? Because we're on pace for less than 3 million for the first time in over 20 years,
it,
which,
it it's the chicken or the egg though. Again, from the business perspective, you have
but
to focus
wouldn't you
on
rather have one than not either, right? Like at least have the fans. If you're not sure about the TV, at least have the fans.
no.
If you lose fan interest and you're still unsure about the TV deal, then you're losing most of your sources of revenue, not just one.
Yes, but at the same time, no. The amount of lost revenue versus the amount of extra they need to spend in order to like do that is insane.
Not necessarily like you have to spend a lot more either, though. You could just make savvier baseball moves. Like
Well,
I was critical
I
of the
don't think. I don't think
Gibson
they
thing.
planned on Goldie and Nato shitting the bed during all of our playoffs. I think they were honestly expecting us to win something between 2020 or 2019 and 2022. I think they were counting on us winning a championship during that time, and we're expecting to have to like sit on shitty deals for a couple of
Oh,
years,
you're not
you
wrong at
know?
all. No, you're not wrong at all. I'm just making the counterpoint that like if you know that like you're in financial possibly maybe we'll see. I'm sure we'll work something out with someone. There's not going to be Cardinals games off TV, but if you're in that position, uh, especially like in that time frame, right? Like this was the time frame where like we had Pete Goldie Arnado. Wouldn't it make sense to go all in? We didn't do that either. I there's been questionable moves for a few
I
years now.
mean, we went all in for a mid-market team. We had a top five payroll those years?
No, we didn't.
Top 10?
We were we were like around the 12-ish for probably average for those years, which is not bad, right? And I'm not even saying spend more money either. Like I'm just saying like make savvier baseball moves. You
You
spend over 20 mil on the combination of Gibson Lynn, which for the most part has been fine. But then you have guys like Snell who are making the same amount as them two combined, who's a much better pitcher. Or like we go back to 2022, right? Like Juan Soto is out there. I'm not saying we should have imploded our entire farm system, but if this is the time frame you really have to go for because you're unsure of the future, then go for it. Don't kind of rest on your laurels and like, well, I hope everything works out, right? Because I don't think that's really smart either. We're kind of
Well,
paying the
that's
price
not
for it
our
right now.
strategy, and this is why I haven't liked the DeWitts for a long time. They literally came out with a book in 2013 talking about how they've changed everything and are focused on a Moneyball approach. So, like, you have to get from where like asking a billionaire to change his style of making money. I'm not insane enough to think that that's going to happen. He's going to
But
continue to stick to
bringing in
his
someone like
version of
Juan
the
Soto
Cardinals.
isn't a payroll issue though. That's like a are you willing to part with the prospects for like this short period of time to hope things win, like actually go for it. Like the Padres did, and it failed on them miserably. I'm not saying be the Padres. Again, don't be the Padres. But if you're gonna play this like game where like we have this time frame and we're not really sure of the future and we know we can't really spend much in the future, then the time would have been now. And now it's past. Because we're
I
looking
I wouldn't have wanted them to go all in the last 2 years. I think that would have been a waste of our resources. Like, I don't care what they
2022
say.
though.
Anybody who didn't see that, like,
2022, we had first, third MVP. We had Pujols lighting the world on fire in the second half. I think that would have been the time. One bad Ryan Helsley inning really derailed our whole postseason to the team that ended up going to the World Series. So we haven't made like if you remember Jocketty. We're both about the same age. Jocketty would do that kind of stuff. He saw a team with Pujols, Edmonds, and Roland and said, "I still want Walker anyway." We haven't really had that approach in years.
yes, but Jocketty only succeeded behind DeWitt's money and willingness to allow those deals to happen. What did he accomplish after he left? If
Not
he
much.
was
The whole
if he
league
was the brilliant
changed too,
mind
though.
behind it, he would have done something else, you know?
No,
Just
you're
like
right. The whole league changed, though.
like
The whole league's value of prospects in that time also changed dramatically. Because,
well,
like, if you like, he flipped Placido
the,
Polanco
the
for
league's
30.
sources of revenues also changed drastically during that time. That is when TV deals started skyrocketing. And again, attendance now means practically nothing. Like, I don't think our fan base could handle a rebuild if the team told them they were going to. To your point of like losing the whole fan base, they have to like feign like they're still trying to compete. They're not going to go all in. I mean, they're hoarding a bunch of prospects right now, which I am very excited with our crop of young guys. I mean, we got Burley, we got Wynn, we got Gorman, we got Tink, we got
When
Matthews, we got
AJ Weatherholt.
McCready, we
Yeah.
got Walker, we got JJ, who's got on base every game that he's played so far. I mean,
Top 25 baseball America already.
we have they've slowly been putting together a solid core that's gonna pretty much come up together if you notice it all around the exact same time, and they're all pretty much controllable. We just need to find the right vets. I hope we don't re-sign Goldie because that'll pretty much doom us if we commit that money to
2 years,
him
40
versus
mil. I
another
already see
option.
it.
Look, I love Goldie, and unless he's willing to take like a cart player minimum deal of like 750K, you don't re-sign him. Like, I'll take
He
him if
won't
he
make
wants to be a
minimum.
bench presence veteran, you know?
Yeah, he won't make minimum. I think that we
Of
do
course he
sign him too.
won't, but I'm
Yeah.
telling you what I'll take.
Oh yeah, for sure. No, I get it because I'm in the same boat as you. I love Goldie. I don't want to re-sign him unless he's playing at a reduced role at a reduced rate, right? That's what makes the most sense. But knowing this ownership group and how they operate, they like to sell the fans on stars or aging
No,
stars
they really
or
don't.
future Hall of Famers or
We're
retired
not the
numbers on the
Padres.
wall.
We are not AJ Preller. We don't go after shiny
No, 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 no. I'm not
objects.
talking about super young superstars. I'm talking about guys that will retire a Cardinal and possibly have their number on the wall or go into the Hall of Fame as a Cardinal in the future. And that's an argument I made before in a different chat. But like
I
I
don't.
could I could see DeWitt wanting to bring Goldie back just on the off chance that if he does make the Hall, he'd wear a Cardinals cap. Because they love marketing that stuff. They love marketing that stuff. Let's be honest. They love it. You know they do. They do it all the time.
They do, but it only makes sense at a certain value. Re-signing him, like, think about how much they re-signed Albert for. It was pennies compared to like the contracts that he had been on the years prior and whatnot.
Absolutely. You're not wrong. I'm just saying that like I could see them making a push to resign him when they should really just kind of like let the market dictate what he's worth, and if it's too much, let him go.
Well, again, that's still gonna have to happen in order for him to sign at a reduced rate. He's gonna have to become a free agent. So they can be pushing this whole idea on him this whole time. But yeah, if it's an extension, we're screwed because it's going to
Yeah.
be for a lot of money if it's an
Well,
extension.
there's been a couple rumors, reports of that already being talked about in the background. So that's
I don't
take it
I
with a
don't
grain of
trust
salt.
I
But
don't trust those rumors because they hear that talks are going on and then people start assuming, man, like only a few people have actual access to those talks and they normally keep those to the chest. You'll walking around like the front office, you'll like hear that somebody had a meeting, or you'll see the agent come in and you'll be like, oh, I know who you are and stuff like that. So like
what's going on?
word gets out, but like nobody knows the actual details. They're all assuming, they're just they want to be the first to report a possible extension, because of course, but they could easily be just letting them know. Any final topics for the last few minutes?
Yeah. Do we want to talk about how bad we've been lately and what maybe play some hindsight ball? I don't know, man. It's
We've done enough
it's
of
been a
that
real
tonight.
bummer lately, right? Uh, I was one that said, "Hey, maybe we should listen on Helsley." I know Helsley is a phenomenal closer. That's not the argument. I was the one that looked at the cost of high leverage relievers in the trade market this past deadline and said, "Hey, maybe we should just listen. If someone blows us away, we shouldn't close that door." But we didn't. We were buyers, and now we're kind of looking at this team like, man, like, should we have bought? It's yeah.
I there all of our pieces that are worth something that we didn't get rid of, I want for the future. So I'm glad we didn't sell any other pieces off, if that makes sense. Nobody was going to give us anything good for Goldie. I'd rather, just let him go rather than force him out to
Oh yeah, I didn't
somewhere.
think Goldie was going to get anything. I'm looking at Helsley though, and like the Orioles need for a back end, and I'm looking at like a Kobe Mayo
I'd
or a
I'd
Houston.
rather have Helsley for next year, see how this team goes, and we can move him at the deadline if things aren't working, you know?
But speaking of next year, what's the solution to having a better next year with this current roster, with these current restraints? Because it's unless you're looking 2 years down the line, next year looks a little more bleak. unless you do something major like sign Pete Alonso, but we're not going to do that. So, yeah,
I mean, I think next year's going to be a little more youth heavy, but I'm honestly a little more excited about it. You get another year of growth from Burley Wynn. I think Gorman having a full offseason, knowing what he has to focus and work on is going to be huge for him. It's only going to be his third full season in the majors. Walker's turning 23 next year. I mean, we
you're
have
not
a
wrong
lot.
about those guys, and I like all those guys too. But here lies the issue: is like you're just kind of hoping next year, right? You're doing the same thing you did this year. You're
I mean,
hoping everyone is
you're hoping
better.
every year.
You're hoping, but like having those established every year producer type players that are not in decline. I know Arnado Goldie, and that was unexpected. Let's be fair, but you kind of need that also. It's and we
I'm,
don't really have a guarantee on any of these players to be that next season, right? You just hope Burley's as good again next year. You hope Foreman figures it out in the offseason. You hope Wynn has a better season next year than he we hoped that from Gorman this year, though, right? We thought last year Gorman will be better next year, and he was worse. So it's tough. It's a tough spot to be in, right? So I actually like our pitching youth more than I like our hitting our immediate pitching youth, I should say, because I think Hence is knocking on the door. Same with Quinn Matthews. They should maybe Hence the way he's pitching can make a September appearance. If not, he should be competing in the offseason. Same with Matthews. But as far as the offense, which has been the major issue, right? We just got outscored 27-7 in our last 4 games. Scored what 4 runs in Great American Ballpark? It's just not acceptable. So
yeah.
it's worrisome going to next season unless we do something drastic. We don't have that guy that we can count on for sure that we know will put up numbers next year. We don't. It's you hope, right? Like I want us to win. I'm just being a realist here. It's like you look at Goldie, who's might be gone, and Arnado, who has declined significantly. Outside of them two, who is a guy you know for sure will be good next year? You can say, I hope it's Burley, but you don't know that because he was bad last year. He was really good this year, and I love Burley. I'm a Burliever. We talked about
He wasn't
it.
bad last year. He had bad luck.
He had bad luck. Yes, he had the bad luck found
That's
upon
why I
him.
can count on Burley. I mean, you're not wrong. It really is pretty much a bit of a crapshoot and a little bit of luck, but at the end of the day, that is what baseball is. In my mind, we are in a rebuild. Like I said, I feel like we missed the gap that we thought management thought we were going to have to get that World Series, or at least make it that far. Um, so I think they're just biding their time trying to restock right now, and they don't want to admit it, which makes them a bit chicken shit in my mind. But, like you said, they don't want to lose all the fans. So, they're like, hey, we're at least trying to get to the playoffs, yada, yada.
Yeah,
Uh,
especially with the 3 wild cards now too, right? Where like you have 10 teams in condition and contention around 500. It's definitely doable.
Last
Even
5
bad rosters.
years, the NL wild card has made it to the World Series 3 times.
Yep, playoffs are a son of. I mean, we won in '06 with what 83 wins on the year, um, and then we got swept in '04. So
But I mean, just think about that. 3 out of the last 5 years,
yeah,
an NL wild card has represented the league. Two of those won the World Series. So, like, don't get me wrong, I would prefer to be following a team like the Dodgers or something, or the Yankees that like to go all in and whatnot. But, you know, I am a lifelong Cardinal fan, will always be, so that is not an option. This is the team that I have. We are a mid-market team. We're not going to be able to do that. But, like, yeah, it's just one of those things where, we're stuck with the hand that we're dealt. And I may not be forward to next year as much, but 2026 has me really excited. So it's just about seeing what we can get next year from our youngsters. Maybe we can find somebody that's in free agency that's willing to come here. Kind of like Sonny. I mean, the last 2 years we've got Sonny and Wilson. That's pretty darn good. If we can get another third person to like bring that up that still has years to go to replace Goldie, we actually might have a shot at producing. Like, if you can get better numbers out of his spot this year, like, I mean, we're right back in the wild card again.
Absolutely. It's the offense, like on the season. And don't get me wrong, the starting pitching has not been good lately. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. They've been bad, right? And that's part of like what you kind of look forward to next year is like, okay, well, maybe we can find someone to take Michaelis, even if we have to eat some money. Maybe we don't re-up on a Lynn, or maybe we don't on a Gibson, even though I think we probably will. But we have guys like Tane Kent's, we had guys like Quinn Matthews, like I already said, were beating down the door. I think Sasaki is someone that we should realistically try to target because he fits that time frame of our future guys coming up too. And
Hmm.
the most money that's going to be spent on him is for the negotiation rights, right? He's not going to be like a Yamamoto $300 million contract. But yeah, I mean, we are in this kind of this. I don't want to call it a rebuild more than so like a retool because people hear rebuild and that just means trade everyone, right? And just hoard as many prospects as you can get. We will never do that. We'll trade pieces that make sense to trade, like we did last season with like Flaherty or Hicks, but we'll never be like the team that like trades our star players while they're producing at a really high level just to get prospects. And so that kind of puts us in this precarious situation, right? Like where we need the guys, the younger guys to work out. I mean, I would hate to imagine we probably still would have been good, but I'd still hate to imagine like the early 2000s if Pujols didn't work out, right? Like we need to hit. We haven't hit in a while. We need to make sure we hit, which is another circle back to Walker, right? Like I don't get it, but it's yeah.
Well,
We can
and
make
think
a
about
couple
it.
of savvy moves and be in
Think
contention.
about if we don't hit on Pujols and Molina in that draft. It wasn't just one. If we don't hit on both of those guys, you could easily argue we don't get either of those championships.
Oh, I
So
mean, I would put money that we don't get either of them. I
you
mean, Pujols
really
was the
do
best
need a
player
bit
for
of
a
luck
decade
with
and a half in baseball. So,
you do need a bit of luck with, like you said, those prospects to work out. So, I mean, there is player responsibility, but again, you can't just give up on a guy before he's 26. Most of these players really don't find their prime until later. I mean, look at Judge. He's one of the fastest to hit 300, but he didn't get going until later. He didn't find his,
yeah, until his mid
swing.
20s, like we look at people like Soto who are 19 and MASH and like, where's that guy on our team? Well, that guy's not on any team. That guy's a 101. That's Juan Soto, and that's it, right? There's no other. But to the point that I was making earlier, you don't want to have to rely on that either. You would like to have someone brought in that you know will produce and take the pressure off these young guys. That way, like someone like Gorman, we know we watch him play when he plays and he's struggling, you can tell he's in his head. If the rest of the lineup around him is producing as they should, or like they should have been, he probably plays better, right? Because he doesn't have to stress about every single at bat making the difference in the game, right? Like how many one-run games have we played in this year? It's insane. Like you would like to be able to get someone. It's long story short, and I keep circling. I'm talking myself in circles here, so I apologize. But the goalie, yeah, you're right. The goalie Arnado fall off has crushed this team, and I don't. Goldie might not be here next year, and we don't know if Arnado will get better again because at 30s he should be, but you can't. You've seen the decline already. You don't want to like just kind of be like, all right, he'll be better next year, right? Like you don't know that. You would like to have someone replace Goldie's average production to take the pressure off these young guys so they can flourish more. But
I
it's
mean,
tough where we are right now.
the only thing we can hope for is that news comes out in the off season that Nato's been fighting an injury all year to his like obliques or his ribs or something like that.
Yeah, you don't hope for injury, but you
Then
hope
this
that it was
whole thing
something
makes
other than just decline, right? Just age
then this
decline.
whole thing makes total sense, and we just need him to rest and relax during the off season, But like, if it isn't that, like, yeah, it is serious. But I mean, you saw he got even hot over like the last few weeks and whatnot before like the team started struggling heavily again. So I mean, there has to be hope that, you know, he can fight this regression that he was facing, or that it maybe again was just and is still a nagging injury that he's dealing with because again, he knows he's a leader on the team and sometimes those leaders refuse to take themselves off for a couple games because, they think they got to be there and it ends up
Well, and it's bad optics too,
more.
right? If like one of your team leaders isn't playing and your ship
Well,
is currently sinking and it's like halfway down in the ocean and your guys who are supposed to be responsible are like nowhere to be seen. So you're right. I mean, you don't want him to be hurt, but you hope that's the reason
yeah.
because then you have more of a reason. You have more belief that he'll be better next year. But even if he is, you're still missing that Goldie bat. And then you have one guy you know for sure.
When you have the money freeing up from Goldie, so
But Sonny
paying.
Gray's contract, he makes
Oh,
more next season too.
yeah.
And Michaelis is still on the book. And if you re-up on Lynn and Gibson, you have that money still too. So like, yeah, you lose the Goldie money, but then you add the Gray money. So
Yeah, and arbitration deals too.
and yeah, which is why DeWitt has already said we're not looking to add money and a trade or any significant money in the near future. And you look and you're like, fuck, dude, but we need that. We need it. So like help.
Fucking
So
Bally's, man. Fucking Bally's again.
yeah, remember because Gray's contract was backloaded. So
Well, Gray's contract is backloaded in so one thing that does piss me off is the MLB is dragging their feet getting something situated for us. You see them coming in and they've already saved several different teams and whatnot. And
oh
here
yeah,
we
what
are just
the MLB the contracts. Not exactly. It's I think we should have our own network similar to like other made because I think we get the viewership for it to
we
be
should, but we're in a contract. So until this is sorted out, we can't.
but they're bankrupt. They can't pay us.
I know,
That
isn't that
should
great?
void the contract. Let's go. What are we doing?
But we can't. Stupid fucking law. Like we
Oh God.
until either MLB resolves it or until the bankruptcy is like fully, gone through, like we have to wait out that contract and we're stuck with Bally's. I mean, you look at like their broadcasts the last couple of years and you're getting shoddy broadcasting, blackouts during games not even starting properly on time.
Jim Edmonds, Dean in the broadcast. No, I'm just kidding.
But I mean, you see all that sort of stuff. I mean, on the Blues side, we lost Panger because
Oh yeah, that
Bally's
was
couldn't
correct.
pay him. Like there are real consequences to this television company going bankrupt that has nothing to do with our team and is fucking over our team. And you would think that baseball would be trying to come to our rescue versus saving the Padres. Like, I mean, there is no other recognizable brand bigger than ours other than the Yankees internationally.
And the Dodgers now probably with the
Still,
Japanese players.
they already had a good following out there. That's why, these Japanese players are attracted to like these West Coast teams because there's already big Japanese populations in those areas because, Pacific, not a far travel to Japan. I have plenty of friends who
Yeah.
have parents who were born there and even moved here themselves,
Oh, you're
so
right. And we are blue blood. I get what you're saying. But yeah, like we're one of the most recognizable franchise, not just baseball, but like the birds on the bat is super, super recognizable and marketable. And yeah, we're just kind of
the STL
red.
is actually our most marketable and most recognized thing. And not just because of the Cardinals, but people associate it with people like Nelly and shit like that. Like,
Yeah.
uh, they see John Hamm out wearing Cardinals gear and stuff like that. They see Jenna Krasinski wearing Cardinals gear. Like we have quite a bit of star power behind us too, man, over the years and whatnot. And again, we're one of the oldest franchises too. Like that helps us as well. But I mean, it is what it is. Like, there's just so much frustration, and it is rightfully there. I just don't want to go to the realm of melodrama where it's fire everybody,
Blow
sell
it up
everybody, because we
and blow
do
up the
have a lot.
stadium. Yeah.
We have a lot of bright pieces for the future and whatnot. And again, Mo is set to retire after the 25 season and whatnot. So there is a plan of succession, whether it is Gersh or whether it is Flores remains to be seen.
Bloom,
My money is still on Flores and whatnot.
Bloom. I'm Bloom. Just
I
don't
think
show
I
superstars over
think
there.
Bloom's going to be our next AGM head of scouting.
Maybe.
I think Bloom takes over Randy's role, is what happens.
I think Randy stays in his role because he's good at it. It's like that fake promotion at work. We'll give you a raise, but we won't promote you because you're really good at what you do. I think that's what happened. We'll see. I mean, we'll see.
You don't move him to AGM unless you're training him for something. Because otherwise you just keep him scouting director. There was no reason to give him assistant GM duties unless you're trying to train him for that role. And I think they saw something in him that Gersh lacks ultimately, and that's that like real baseball knowledge. Gersh is more of like a real behind the scenes,
He's like the freaking Wizard of Oz. You're not even sure if he's actually there, like
but
behind the curtain.
but he's not the man behind the curtain though. That's
He's
Mo
not, but
ultimately.
where is he, right? That's the thing. We're always talking about Mo this, Mo that, and then when it comes to like scouting, developing, drafting, it's Flores, Flores, Flores. Like Gersh is actually the GM of this team, but you hear nothing about him.
Well, that's because so with the hierarchy, so like when I worked with the Angels, we didn't have a Pobo at all. It was simply just the GM, and the GM ends up doing the head of baseball operations, and they end up managing all the day-to-day that's going on around the facility, all that sort of stuff with ticket sales. So when you end up splitting it off and have a Pobo, Pobo takes over all of the baseball operation stuff, the trades, the negotiations, talking about scouting, all of that sort of stuff. And the GM gets stuck with like the business stuff,
He
the
can't
shit that like
have
the shit that nobody cares about for a sports team, but is very important for running a sports team. And that is what Gersh essentially does. So that's why we don't talk about him because like for the like true baseball stuff, like yeah, he's in there, he's helping out and whatnot, but like he's not running the show. He's an assistant ultimately, Yeah, that's why again I don't see him as the man that takes over. He's the man that stays in that position because it's a nice cushy position, and again, I think that's why Mo got his extension. I think the original plan was to have Gersh take over the role. Flores got really hot in the org, and they're like, shit, let's give us a couple more years to really train this guy how to do it right, extend Mo, make sure the succession is again all speculation. It's just the dots connect so well for me because I've seen guys get moved around in organizations I've been with this like plan of succession because that's how it normally goes. Two things happen in the sports world. You're with your mentor and you either follow your mentor everywhere or you eventually take over for your mentor. It's how it works when you're like, so it's all about finding like the right guy to pair with. And again, it just all adds up for me. I'm sorry for ranting about that.
Oh, you're fine. That's how I feel about Bloom. I feel like they didn't bring Bloom in to just kind of be this voice that in someone's ear and nothing more, right? But you could be right with Flores. I mean, I'm a big fan of his. Obviously, we talked about like his hits in the draft. I think his hits. Um, he has a good eye for scouting. He's a good eye. Well, he's obviously not the one developing, but he's got a good eye for talent. I wouldn't hate it. It's just I think the biggest thing holding back our org right now is still ownership. Um, so hopefully something it changes in the right direction. I don't expect anything significant, but yeah, losing really opens eyes to some people.
Yeah.
Consistent losing. That's not a good look for the org. It's not a good look for the brand. It's not good for the fans and negotiations for a new contract. If you don't have the attendance or you don't have the viewership like you used to, doesn't look good either. So hopefully, because we know DeWitt's about the money, right?
Yeah.
Hopefully this will help motivate him to do things a little differently moving forward. But I won't hold my breath on that. We'll see. Like we'll see. With everything with this team, we'll see, right? Like we just hope. Let's just keep hoping.
Yeah, I mean, that's really all we can do ultimately, right?
Yep. It is what it is. It sucks right now. It's not gonna suck forever, but it definitely sucks right now. And again, the season's still not over. We're still within an arm's reach of a wild card, and anything can happen. And if you make it, it just watching the team every night and watching how dead they look out there, it's pretty depressing. So um if
It
we were
is pretty
5 games
depressing.
back right now, but we had won the last 6 games and we looked good, the optics would be totally different. But that's not what's happening. We're about 5 games back and we've been losing a lot lately. So
Yep.
yeah, it's just when you play good.
Yeah.
I
I
got
mean,
nothing else. I got nothing else unless you want unless there's something you want me to rant about. That's
no,
what
nope, that's pretty much it. I mean, I think we've done enough ranting tonight. Ultimately, players have to be accountable for their performance too. At the end of the day, these are guys that are getting paid millions of dollars. Many of them, obviously, the younger guys are working their way up to that, but like guys like Goldie and Nato have been getting paid to be our main offensive guys. So, having these issues, obviously, let's be very clear, they probably take this harder than any of us because these are guys that are career professionals and they don't take losing lightly. It's why they wanted to get out of their respective teams in Arizona and Colorado and whatnot. And so, I mean, I know they're feeling it too, but it is on our players to hit the ball, get on base,
yeah, they're major league
not
hitters,
run into
right?
outs, you know?
Don't bet
So,
Crawford with the game on the line too, though. Like Marmol,
well,
like you're not blameless in this, Marmol. I still watch you and I still criticize your issues, but I still think I think he's more of a scapegoat than the main culprit too. So that's personally, I don't know what you think on that. But yeah, I mean,
I don't think he's a scapegoat because that would infer that he isn't in the wrong here. I just don't think he's the only one that should be held over the flames,
yeah, you're
ultimately.
right. I don't think he's the biggest issue. He's an issue, but he is not the top of the mountain, right? That's
The
still,
issue is
yeah.
ownership ultimately, but unless you get a local group to buy out the team, like Stillman and Co. did with the Blues, like I don't want another solo billionaire taking over this team because you're going to get it run for the same reasons. Ultimately, it's going to be about the money and not about the team wanting to see the team in the city succeed, you know?
Yeah,
Or
no, you're
maybe
right.
the
And I
and
think,
especially with how things are now with, all these owners threatening to have teams leave cities where they've been forever, like I wouldn't put past a new, billionaire to come in and be like, "Hey, if you don't give me this or that, I'm moving the team to, you know, somewhere that's more profitable than this Midwest town." And that just scares me more than anything. We've already had that happen with our Rams, you
yeah,
know.
you're right too. And the Rams sold out games for 20 years and then wrong ownership came in and purposely tanked them so they can move them.
Yep, and we even won the lawsuit and we get nothing for it other than
Yeah.
just some money. Here,
Well, they
here's
just got a lot
some
of
pity
money.
cash.
Yeah.
Here's some pity cash.
Local government still holding on to that. We don't know what happened to it. Vacation
The
funds.
local government.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good note to leave on.
Yeah.
There's time, obviously, in the season still. It's not completely over. It's not completely doom and gloom. It just looks really, really bad right now. It won't stay bad forever though, right? So
I mean, you could turn this around in a week. If you look like Padres are 9-1 in their last 10, like you never know with baseball, but something needs to happen fast. We're halfway through August and we can't drop any further. I mean, we all
a
remember
lot
what
of
happened that
indications.
year where
Yeah.
we were 10 and a half back and whatnot. You don't want to put yourself in that freaking situation and whatnot.
Yeah, that was a historical run, and it was a historical run because no one did that before. You
Yeah.
can't count on that again. Like
Well, again, but that also leads to the point why Schilt was fired. You can't count on a 17-game win streak as your saving
Hmm.
grace
Yep.
to being why
Oh,
you're
you're
not
right.
fired that season. Because if we didn't go on that 17-game win streak, that was an awful record that we were pacing for too during
Yeah, and
his
then that's the guy that put Reyes in when he was struggling for half a year with the game on the
put
line.
put Reyes in because he deserved the opportunity, not because of the matchup, not because it made sense, but because of everything he had done that year. He deserved the opportunity. That is when Schilt lost me, when he gave that explanation,
Yeah,
ultimately,
it's
because I
not
was
about
like,
winning the game; it's about feelings. Yeah,
this is not the time to thank him. Buy him a birthday cake, take him out for steak dinner afterwards. You don't throw him in the game.
yeah. Ultimately, the offense shit the bed in that game too, though. We only scored one run, so I mean, it is what it is.
True. It is what it is. But, had an opportunity and you don't want to do that. So, well, we'll wrap it at that for a night, Cardinals fans.
Yeah.
Thanks for
Thanks for
joining us
joining our
for our
therapy
wonderful
session.
venting session. You guys have been very nice therapy, free therapy for us, so we appreciate it. Let us know what your thoughts are on everything we've discussed. And obviously, if there's any topics we might have missed that you guys want to see us cover next time, just let us know. Thanks for checking us out, and we'll see you next time. Have a great one. Take care.